Hi, in this video, we'll be looking at tips on how to administer the Trauma and Behavioral Health Screen, or TBH. Usually, caseworkers will hand the TBH to the caregiver and the child. However, sometimes there might be times when you have to administer the TBH through an interview. For example, if the caregiver or child cannot read or understand the questions, if their vision is impaired, something like that. This video will give you helpful tips on how to interview. First of all, the child and her family have given us permission to use this video for educational purposes. So if you know the child, please do not disclose her information to anyone, including the trainers. The interview may be a little confusing to follow because it is initially unclear what trauma she is endorsing. The child initially endorses domestic violence, which changes to physical abuse, but ultimately it becomes clear that she has been sexually abused. One detail to note throughout the video is the matter-of-fact tone of the interview. The interviewer is not too empathetic, but instead she sets a business-like attitude, which creates an atmosphere where talking about trauma is okay and normal.
I'm going to ask you about upsetting things that sometimes happen to kids or teenagers. Have you ever been in a flood, tornado, earthquake, hurricane, or some other? Where you thought you were going to die or be seriously injured?
No.
It's important to note that though this may have been a traumatic event, the child did not feel like her life was threatened. Therefore, it would not be considered a traumatic event on the TBH.
Which one were you nodding to?
The first one you said.
A flood? Where was that?
Kingsland.
Did you think you were going to die or be really hurt? Was your house messed up where you were?
A tree fell.
A tree fell?
It didn't fall on the house.
Oh, it didn't fall on the house. Is there anything else besides the flood? Like Hurricane Katrina? Do you remember Hurricane Katrina? Have you ever been in a situation where you or someone close to you could have been killed or have been badly hurt? So, have you ever seen anybody hurt the people around you?
The question the interviewer is asking is about domestic violence. However, it's vague. The interviewer automatically rephrases the question so that the child can understand it. You may ask more specific questions, such as, has anyone ever hurt or attacked mom?
Foster parents or biological parents or... Yeah? You saw someone hurt them? You don't know? You don't know, or you just don't want to talk about it? You don't want to talk about it? No? Okay. So all I'm doing on this one is I'm asking if it ever happened. And then we're going to talk about the symptoms you have had since it happened. I don't need you to tell me like a bunch of details. I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble. I just want to know if it ever happened so that we can help you later.
You may notice the child appears to be acting reluctant to talk about the traumatic events. So the interviewer recognizes this and steps outside of the TBH for a moment to explain that she does not need to know all the details. Administering the TBH is not like a forensic interview. It is not important to dig for information or to know all the specific details, but rather to know if the event has happened at all.
All we are doing today is I'm writing down what happened, period. So if you just say, somebody hurt my bio mom, that is all I will write. Is that true?
About?
About your biological people.
But it's not mom. It was dad.
Somebody hurt your biological dad? And did you see it happen? Do you remember how old you were? 10? And was it just once? How many times did it happen? A bunch? Like, how about a range of times? Once a week? Once a month? Once a year?
I don't know.
Once every 100 million years? Pick a number.
10.
10. There you go. And is that the only person, or have you seen someone
No.
who could have been killed or hurt badly?
Got hurt? Yeah.
That got hurt.
Well, not hurt me? Yeah.
Hurt you is the next question. Have you ever been attacked by somebody or badly beaten?
Both. That's about the dad thing.
Oh, bio dad hurt you.
Oh, yeah. And then a girl did it.
A girl did it too? Was it like his girlfriend or just somebody?
No, Deborah.
Deborah was also hurting you. And did it like leave marks when they were hurting you? No? And were they beating you up? Or hitting you with things? No? So the next question is, have you ever been very upset by someone forcing you to do something sexually that you really didn't want to do? Has that ever happened? Where somebody touched your privates or made you touch theirs that you really didn't want to happen?
After the interview asks the original question, it is clear that the child doesn't understand the word sexual. However, the interviewer immediately rephrases it to say, touching your privates. You may have other words and phrases that may be more developmentally appropriate.
That's what he did.
Oh,
Both of them.
both of them did something? So did they ever do anything not sexual to hurt you? Like hit you with things or anything like that? And this is the one that when you were 10, it happened 10 times, right? Since these things happen, have you ever found yourself reliving what happened? Thinking or feeling that it was happening all over again? Since these things happen, have you had episodes where you seem to freeze? Somebody can wave their hand in front of your face and you wouldn't even blink. Since these things happen, have there been certain things that usually made you remember it? So, like maybe for a car accident, if you were to see a car that looked like the one that hit your car or looked like the one you were in.
We had 2 cars wreck.
But if you saw the cars that looked like them, would it make you nervous or anything?
This may be the most important point from this video. The interviewer is trying to ask about the important PTSD symptom of psychological distress that is triggered by things that make the child remember past traumas. The initial question that the interviewer asks is kind of generic and vague and a little confusing, and the child does not seem to understand. However, the interviewer thinks on her feet and gives examples that relate to the child's trauma. For example, if the child has been in a car wreck, the interviewer can ask, does getting into a car or seeing police make you nervous? If the child has been sexually assaulted, the interviewer can ask, does changing clothes in front of someone make you nervous? This type of interviewing differs from investigational interviews because it is considered leading the witness. However, we refer to this as educational interviewing because you have to teach the child what the symptoms of PTSD are in order for them to understand. If you feel that the child is saying yes to questions in order to appease you, ask the child for examples. You are the final judge on whether the child truly did experience a traumatic event or symptom.
So,
The police scare me.
the police. Just seeing the police reminds you of the wreck. Like, in general, seeing the police, does it remind you of the wreck? And what about for the other thing? Is there anything that reminds you of that? Like, maybe seeing pictures of them. Does that remind you of what they did? Or certain, like, objects that you maybe have that remind you of it. Like, going by the house. Do you remember where it happened?
We went to our house.
You went to that house one time?
The house that we lived out in Kingsland, yeah. We went there yesterday, last night.
To the house where it happened?
Mm-hmm.
And did it remind you of what happened when you went by there? Did it make you nervous? Yeah.
We hope this has been helpful. In summary, remember that it is helpful to rephrase questions to make them more developmentally appropriate, and educational interviewing involves giving specific examples of possible symptoms so children can better understand the questions. Thanks for watching.